a Heroes Welcome podcast.
My name is Jessica Cauthorne. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I am a registered play therapist, and I am waiting to get back from APT on the S. So, yeah.
That's right, because that's how we talk when we're waiting for credentials. I'm waiting.
Yes, we are. I'm eagerly anticipating, awaiting. It's been a lot of work, a lot of time, and I'm very excited for it.
Yes. And full transparency and disclosure, Jessica is the clinical director of A New Hope. So she is my right hand. But why do we have her here today, Liliana?
So I insisted for everyone who's listening, because when I get obsessed, I get obsessed. So I had the pleasure of being one of the presenters on Maria's training in California on our conference, and I listened to Jessica. And her training, I mean, all of them were great, but her training in regards to feminism theory, I was like blown away from not only making that theory fun, which we all know.
Maybe theory is a superpower, for sure. Sure.
But the ability to link it to Disney princesses. And, like, it was like, what? I'm never going to see movies the same. And I'm not. Just
good.
I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
What do you want our listeners to learn about this amazing presentation that you did with this amazing theory that we should be using more often?
Wow. Okay. That's a lot of amazings. So I think, first of all, it's really important for people to understand that feminism is not a dirty word. Right? Unfortunately, there's this concept out there that if you're a feminist, you hate all men, and like it's a very ugly, angry position to take in the world. And it's not. It's simply equal rights afforded to men and women. Regardless, like it's just equality, regardless of gender expression, identity, any of that. I think that's a very important component. And feminism and feminist theory is something that's not really talked about in a lot of programs in school. You can take like a women's studies course and major in that, and you'll get all the things. But as far as our work clinically, that's not really brought up. It's not highlighted. It's kind of it's a more quiet theory to work from. And the beautiful thing about it is it's applicable in every way with every type of practice that you do. It's really a lens in which you can view the work you're doing. So you can really empower your clients for equality and overcoming their challenges and being honest about privilege and oppression and having really important conversations that can help people overcome a lot of internalized negative beliefs about themselves due to just the oppression they've experienced their whole lives. And we can also do it in play and in play therapy. So really, I think I want people to realize that feminist theory is not evil. It's not dirty. It's not dark. It's not bad. It's not scary. It's a beautiful lens in which you can help empower your clients. And it can be applied in every theory and modality, I dare say.
Yeah, I love that. I think, remembering back, and I'm losing my voice, so I apologize for that. But I remember back in my program, it was like, here are like the main theories, and then like, here are some side ones that maybe you should go learn about on your own. And feminist theory is like one of those, right? It was like a little footnote. I also like the way that you frame it, because even though it is called feminist theory, it really does kind of include non-binary and non-gendered individuals.
Absolutely.
Which I think, again, is like, if you hear feminist, right, you think women presenting, cis women, and the theory and the way that you presented it, it's equality. regardless of gender and in despite of gender.
Yes.
Which I think is really important to note.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point, Maria. And when the theory kind of came out, so to speak, in the 60s, it started off pretty much challenging gender norms, right? And the conversations were very different then. And
Right.
as time has gone on, the theory itself is always evolving with the world and socially and what's happening societally. And so there's a multicultural perspective. I mean, it's the entire, again, spectrum of gender identity, sexual orientation. It encompasses everything and really looks to, again, be honest about where somebody's power is within themselves, internally and externally, and how they can empower themselves to be their healthiest versions of who they are and who they want to be.
I love that you said that, right? So Maria and I are MFTs. So we were required to memorize this model for our
Uh-huh.
exam. So Maria is absolutely right. I remember in the postmodern section, that's
Mhm.
where it was. It was feminist
Mm.
and EFT and Gottman. Like it was like there, but it was not in
Mhm.
detail like the other models, which I'm like, no one studied the models like MFTs do, by the way.
No, no, we don't.
That's exactly it. When I read when I read about this model, it was more with the idea focusing on women.
Mhm.
And it was more of if they're in a domestic violence, if they are like, these are the scenarios where you can go and empower. That's why I was so impressed when you presented, because I was like, wait a minute, play therapy is coming in here and it's going to help me soften this idea, especially when
Mhm.
we're working across cultures. Um,
Yes.
and we're going to use something that is being seen as playful by using Disney princesses.
Yeah.
And we're going to externalize it and then
Yep.
talk about the good, the bad, about privileges here.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. And I think that's a really important component. And a lot of people are afraid of that conversation, but it's a crucial one to have if it's, even in the playroom, but with your clients. We need to acknowledge the differences in culture and privilege and experiences because it's there, it's obvious, and just pretending it's not there doesn't serve anybody. And to bridge that and to communicate and find commonality and understanding and true empathy and being able to connect with your client and their experiences, you've got to be able to talk about those things. And that is a fundamental part of feminist theory that just gets lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know, I mean, a little sneak peek behind the curtain. Jessica's presentation was like a last minute, oh crap, I need someone to step in for someone who needs to step out. So, Jessica, share maybe a little bit about like why feminist theory. We joke now like it was so timely and applicable
Yeah.
for March and everything that was happening.
Yeah.
Um, but when I was like, hey, I need you to like step in, why this topic? Why was it important that we started with the feminist? And I mean, yes, we included the Disney princesses because that's where we were and that's what
Right.
we do. But why was it important for you that that was the message you got to share?
Great question. Okay, so when Maria came to me and said, I need a presentation, it's like, okay, what do I want to deep dive into and incorporate play therapy that I'm passionate about? And it didn't take too long for me to realize, well, feminism, especially with everything that's happening and all of the disruption and female healthcare, reproductive rights, and all of that. It was just like it was almost a no-brainer. The other piece, and please don't send me hate mail, is that I really actually used to struggle significantly with Disney.
Mm,
And I hated the first generation princess narrative of being rescued and all of that. And when I had kids, I'm like, oh God, I don't want to do this. So we would have discussions about, maybe you don't marry somebody because you just heard them sing a song in the forest, and kissing people who are unconscious isn't cool. So, but then as my kids were getting older and like Moana came out and that was like amazing. And then we had Frozen and it was not true love of a princess and a prince that saved the day. It was the love of two sisters. That was like, phenomenal.
Mhm.
So it was also an opportunity to kind of look at Disney and just the changing narrative over the years
Yeah.
and reflect back on the play that we're doing with kids and how we can still use these older icons, but empower them differently and help kids find their voice through them and continue to shift with the ever changing play tools that we have, because there are more multicultural princesses now. But some of the old school hardcores definitely are not. And fair skin was the goal and all of those things. So just being able to, again, openly talk about and explore that was really fun and exciting to me. I'm already just starting to talk about it. So that's why feminism, because it's such a, it's everything, right? I mean, we just need more.
When in the empowerment phase, right? Like I have mentioned multiple times, I work with newcomers, but when I went and I listened to your presentation and thinking about the feminist theory, I started thinking, how can I use that theory with Encanto? Do you see how my mind, like
Yes.
I was listening to you and I was like, oh.
Yes. Yes.
Especially with the population, not only that I work with newcomers, but then I'm working with cultural brokers. So they keep taking the additional responsibilities.
Sure.
And then I was like, okay, Encanto, okay, Coco, let's bring you into the playroom.
Yeah.
And then how are we going to externalize it so that we can talk about the roles that you play?
Yes.
Right? Where is the equality? What is the expectations? Like I changed my perspective and I was like, this is what we're doing from now on.
Oh, that's so fun. That's so cool. That's super exciting. Yeah, and Kanto's a great one too. Especially because, Mirabel pretty much shifted the entire family system and dynamic. We're no longer going to fall into the pattern of family secrets, of the automatic expectation. And she shook it all up and then saved the day in the end. See, feminism wins. But the flip side of that is feminist theory in and of itself really challenges a lot of religious expectations, some cultural expectations, because we are saying that, there isn't one better than the other, and there shouldn't necessarily be this hierarchy of power. Now, as a therapist, we already automatically have that. So that's when we talk about the privilege and the relationship too. And yes, that's there, but only towards guiding somebody towards their therapeutic healing. In all other areas, no one's better than the other, but even like the therapist having their lens, that doesn't make them better. It's just, I have a different knowledge base to help you differently. And that's the power differential. It's not that one person is above the other.
Right. Yeah. No, as counselors, we weren't given a big book of answers that we keep secret from everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I also appreciate, because we can be really transparent. One of the things we like about our conversations is that these are honest, open conversations. Disney is problematic. Disney has a history of being problematic.
Oh, yeah.
And continue to make missteps and things that I wish that they would make different decisions. And right, I think that also still brings a really nice lens to, you could have had older beliefs and can sit with them now and go, oh, I would like to maybe do things differently now.
Yes.
And even through that lens of like, yes, maybe you were raised with the expectation that you were going to be a housewife and education was not on your path and you were to have babies, and not to quote anybody recently speaking out of their but like you only have as many thoughts as you have babies, and that's your worth as a woman, right? Like we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, we do.
And I think being able to like take a powerhouse like Disney, who there's not a lot of kids out there that don't have some access to Disney
I'm sure.
in their world. But being able to say like they were problematic and they're making steps forward and they're gonna make mistakes again. And giving that permission through that same lens of like, just because that's how it's been doesn't mean it's how it has to stay.
Sure.
And you can kind of try feminists on, right? In terms of like what fits for me culturally, what fits for me in my practice, and what fits for me for my life. I think one of the things I like about this lens is it's an add-on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Like play, understanding play as a language is an add-on.
Yes.
It does not have to replace anything, but it enhances your lens and your ability to like work with people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, okay, so yeah, we're talking about problematic systems such as, Disney, but I also think that our field is problematic in this perspective because they will not consider, should I dare to say it, feminists in the play therapy. What are you talking about? So first of all, none of the original therapies, the models they were using were play-based. Get over it. Let's move.
Yeah.
So I'm naming that because as an MFT, I was forced to learn them and learn about the authors and the intervention. So stop it. Like nothing was play therapy based. So it's an add-on. Like what are the adaptations that we can do to have this model be used in here? Can we all like just take a breath here and just be open? Because I'm not criticizing. It's just the systems that we inherit.
Yeah.
And also, can we look through the lens of those systems, and then what are kind of like Encanto? What is it that we want to take and challenge and move on, right? So even Moana, I cried with that movie Moana because I was like, yes, I don't want that. I want something else. So as a play therapist, the invitation is, if you think about even like the movie Moana, there's systems that were in place because that's the best we knew. That is, what worked, what was familiar, what was inherent. And now there's a new cohort of therapists saying we want more. And part of it is because of we're looking for gender equality or just equality, period, especially when we're talking about non-binaries. I cannot never pronounce that word. Sorry.
That's okay.
But because there's a new cohort of therapists that we're listening to, and I'm hoping that others are listening to as well, and that credentialing and other associations are paying attention to what is required from us now. And I think this is where you come in, Jessica, because you're making these models friendly, accessible,
yes,
and playful.
It's fun to play with, actually. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. I think that, when we'll put this out with the title of like feminist theory and people are like, what? Right? Because it is an F word for so many people still, right? And there's a lot of it's been misused. It's really been kind of like turned into like a negative, nasty word. Not to say that you can't both be a feminist and be a nasty woman. Like you can do both. That's okay. But it doesn't have to be. And I think those that are still in the old school mindset of like that's yuck are missing out. They're really missing out on an opportunity to pull in equality regardless of some of these systems and old beliefs and old things that we're still working through, and allows them, right? Like we joke, clearly now Disney and Pixar has like millennials on staff, right? We're all working through our family history trauma through Encanto and Raya and all of that.
This is where Red came in, right?
Yes.
100%. And I love that you brought up Moana, Liliana, because that is one of those movies that Jessica and I have talked about. Because if you look at that movie with a feminist lens, there's actually like two different storylines that kind of pop out, right? We have Moana like rejecting the norm and the expectations to do what she feels is right and what's best. And then we have the Tafiti and Te storyline, right?
Yes.
Like you can deep dive into that and take an interpretation of that as a physical injury that was done, and then the healing process that needed to happen
Yeah.
Right? Like, Jessica, would you agree that that's one of those storylines that you and I can talk about like at length?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there's a lot of people who immediately saw the violation of Tafiti, and Taka was a version of herself to protect herself from being hurt again.
Yeah.
And it took Moana at the end saying, like, I see you, I know who you are. I get goosebumps. I have
I
goosebumps.
did it too.
Right? Yeah, and just saying, like, I see you,
Mhm.
for her to calm and be able to have her heart replaced. I mean, like, oh my gosh, like how powerful. And the interesting thing is, Moana thought she needed Maui to help her on that journey, but she helped him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. Yeah, so absolutely. It's definitely everywhere. And, when we're talking about applying feminist theory to our work in and out of the playroom, I was supervising somebody who, her client is struggling because they come from a very traditional Hispanic family,
Mhm.
and she does not feel like she fits the gender expectation role that her family's putting on her. She really just doesn't even know if she wants to have kids. She's going to school. She's doing all of these things. And, we're talking about how to support her. And we're essentially doing feminist theory and therapy for her. It's just, I haven't overtly said until later, you know what we're doing, right? Or you know what you're doing. This is exactly what you're doing, and helping her navigate that journey. And how can she still honor her family, her culture in a way that feels authentic for her? And that's the difference, right? Finding what is true for you and what is your truth in your identity, your self-expression, and what you want for yourself, not what is told to be expected of you that does not fit and doesn't align with who you are in your core. And then in the playroom, we can do that constantly by being curious and playful and asking questions when a child's playing with a toy. When we're doing dramatic play, we can throw in a little question about, well, what if Dad made dinner tonight? I mean, that sounds very stereotypical, but honestly, just those subtle shifts allow us to start thinking more about an even keel. You can play football too if you are female presenting, cisgender, gender, all of that, to helping other people, helping identify other injustices that are happening and giving voice for others. It's empowerment across the board, right? It's, if we don't understand a culture, let's learn about it so we can understand, instead of be scared of it because we don't understand it. Because we tend to fear what we don't understand. It's kind of a normal human response. Well, let's shift that to curious learning and make that the norm.
Yes.
So that, yeah, so then we have these kids just looking through this open lens of wanting to understand, and no one person is has more value than the other.
Well, and as you say that, I mean, it makes like it clicks in my brain. Like, of course, like play therapy is based in feminist theory, just alone of like they can do what they need to with what we have in the playroom, right? We don't say like
Yes.
this section is for girls, this section is for boys. Boys can't have the tiaras and princess dresses. Like, right? Like it's inherent in being a play therapist. Or anybody who's doing like child, client-centered work, which is, everybody. Um,
Mhm.
being able to just be like, you can do what you need to with what I have here without expectations or limitations or restrictions based on how you
Yes.
present or how you identify.
Absolutely. And that safety of the playroom, then the really important piece is making sure that's translated at home. So that's when it's crucial for a therapist to be meeting with the parents too, and helping them to create an environment where a child is free to explore and express. Because if we're giving them one message, but then it's countered when they come home, it's going to be really confusing and painful. So that's the other piece that,
Thank you for
yeah.
touching on that, because every play therapy that I have gone and they're talking about other cultures, first of all, they're talking about stereotypes, not other cultures. There, I said it. But then the other thing is, can we be curious? I love your invitation of, can we be curious about the culture in front of us? And then how can we work with the system to honor the system, but also talk about these wants and needs, especially when, like for myself that I work with newcomers, and you too, Jessica, but like when we work with newcomers, is how can I honor you? And then how can we do this when we are moving from a culture or a country where you were expected to do this, and now you're in a country where there's different expectations? How do we balance those out?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
How do we do it in the play therapy room? And it's okay to do play therapy.
Mhm.
Is the system understanding that? I think we have a long way to go, but I love
Oh
even
yeah.
the perspective of, can we talk about this? Can we
Mhm.
play with, different ideas of what is to, to take care of a baby, what is to cook? Can we talk about this task not being gender oriented?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the nurturing play that comes out, we see that across genders naturally, if it's encouraged and supported and reflected as something that's normal, then it's not going to be questioned or doubted. But if that child then goes home and is caretaking and that doesn't fit with the family expectation, then again, right, that's where we have to continue to work and figure out how to bridge that gap so the family still feels honored and safe and understands, so it's not just a fight of, well, I'm the therapist and I know what's best. That's not feminist theory right there, right? That just totally annihilated the whole thing.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
as a client, I get in trouble for even thinking this when the
Mhm.
system has not buy into it. So that is the difference. That's why when I go to trainings and they're like, play is universal. Nay, nay. That's
No.
you can do
Yeah.
this. Have you asked my mom? Can I actually?
Right? Definitely.
Yeah.
But man, my hope is that our listeners, one, get curious about
Mhm.
your workshops.
Mm.
They
Oh, thank you.
attend them. Because honestly, I was so blown away, and I started thinking of all these movies and how can I use them. And then when I'm looking to empower or the empower phase,
Mhm.
what would that look like for the client in front of me? And then
Mhm.
what theme can I use in order to externalize it? Uh,
Yes.
that was so beautiful, by the way.
Yeah.
You
I
had
love
us
that.
doing so many exercises, and all of us were having a blast.
Oh, thank you. It's so much fun. Yeah, it
Yeah.
really, because empowerment is powerful,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And that's really like the bottom line of all of it. It's taking all these different techniques and interventions and finding a way to empower and give voice and support and allowing a person to again be their authentic self. Because feminist theory is really looking at empowerment internally, externally, societally. I mean, in all, it's like the crossroads of everything.
Yeah.
Powers of play do the same thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think just I would invite people to sit back and like look at their own practice and their own way of moving about the world, because I'm sure you're going to find aspects of
Oh
being a
yeah.
feminist just as you live life in the world that we're living in right now. I mean, unless you're
Mhm,
really like, one way is the only way. Unless you're a
mhm,
Mando, this is the way. There,
mhm.
I mean, it's kind of inherent now, right? And in the world that we are living in with, different soji expressions and non-binary, inclusivity, right? Being able to just kind of move through the world of like just equality. Like
Yeah.
I want equality for those. And I wanted to point out, like, yes, in an ideal world, we'll have the family get on board and we can do some psycho ed and they'll also have a safe space at home. And sometimes we are the only safe space that those
Yep.
kids get to try on these other ideals and wants and explore those things,
Mhm.
which I think is again why therapy, not just play therapy, but therapy in general, can be a really powerful place with, when you have someone on the other side of the going, what would that
Mhm.
look like for you? Right?
Yes. Yeah.
What would happen if you went into this relationship or become a parent and you looked at skills oriented versus like gender oriented tasks, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, you guys both know me. I do not cook for a darn. My family is very lucky to have a husband who enjoys cooking because that is not a skill that I possess, nor do I enjoy. Um, right, but like, why can't we look at relationships based on skills and like what we're bringing in versus like what genitalia do you have, and that's going to dictate like your role in this position.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very egalitarian in nature. And, when it comes to relationships, I really do love the idea, even if it's friendships, there's 40-40 with a floating 20.
Mhm.
And not 50-50 doesn't even make sense, right? Because sometimes everybody needs a little extra. And so being able to adapt to that and not be like, well, that's their job because that's their gender norm or whatever is just, it's absurd. It's not true support. It's not really listening to the other person and seeing the need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So as we're coming to an end, which I'm like, how can this
I know that flew by, guys. Oh my gosh.
what will be something that you want our listeners to take from feminist theory?
Okay. Well, remember, feminism is not a dirty word. And it's okay to have hard conversations in your office and with your clients and be honest about, again, privilege, experience, culture, humility. We don't know anything really about our client's life. And it's okay to ask questions. Please ask questions so you can really understand their perspective and where they're coming from. And then it's helping your client to empower themselves to overcome any obstacles. If it's, again, cultural location geographically too. Religion, just all the things, education, like everything. It's like, again, the crossroads of culture. And it's a constant. It's just a lens in which you can view all the work that you're doing. It's not something that you can just pick up and I'm doing feminist theory today. It can be an integral part of your work in all perspectives.
Oh, I love that. Love that.
Okay.
I don't want it to end. Is that weird?
Well, thank you. Yeah, this is fun. I could talk about this all day.
And you will. We will.
And I will. Apparently I will.
We are
Okay.
gonna lock her down so that we can have that time. Because even we had 4 hours at Disney, and it was like,
flew.
holy crap, we need more. We need more.
We
And
did.
this is such an important lens for people to be not just aware of, but like accept that part of them. That it's okay that we're looking out for egalitarianism and like equality for what makes sense for them. And it's not
Absolutely.
like feminist also doesn't give like, here is equality. This is the definition, blanket slate. Like
It's evolving, ever changing.
ever changing and ever fluid. So I'm hoping, that they look out for more of you, because that's Liliana and I's quest. But two, to like really kind of embrace that part of them and not that's not a shameful part. And really kind of embrace that part because I think it'll serve them well.
Yeah.
Well, and we're probably hearing more of this come up in the office because rights are being stripped away every day. And we are going in the wrong direction.
Yes.
Period.
All the waves of feminism that fought so hard for so much, it's being taken away.
Yeah. So for all our I cannot talk today, for all our listeners today, and you will think like, oh, say in Spanish. No, Spanish or English, cannot talk. But the invitation today from a social justice perspective, please learn about feminist theory. Please learn how you can include it. If you're truly practicing inclusivity in your practice, it should be included there, period.
Perfect. Beautiful.
So please let us know what you think about this topic. We will include Jessica's information so that you can send her emails. All collaborate so she can do more of these presentations because we need more of. And in the meantime, please, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to us. And thank you, Jessica, for coming and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you. This was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Till next time, guys.